What's new in CloudBees CI 2.319.1.5? Are you new here? If you are, welcome. And if you are new here, you don't know who I am. My name is Darren Pope, and I'm a developer advocate for CloudBees. On December 1st, 2021, CloudBees CI 2.319.1.5 was released. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the new features and some of the resolved issues. If you haven't taken the chance yet to watch the What's New in Jenkins LTS 2.319.1, I recommend that you do that now. It was a video that I did with Mark Waite on December 2nd, and the link for that is down in the description. If you've never looked at the release notes for CloudBees CI before, let me show you how to get there. If you start at docs.cloudbees.com, go to Documentation, CloudBees CI, and then on the left nav, click on Documentation, and then go to Release Notes. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the latest, which is what we're going to look at today, 2.319.1.5. Now you may notice here there is a big red section. We'll get into that in the details in just a few moments. First off, we're going to take a look at traditional platforms and all of the fixes that are there. Then we'll go over and take a look at modern and just call out the things that were specific for the modern release. So let's go into the full release notes for traditional platforms. And what we'll see here is there was a security advisory for this release. We'll talk about the details of that down in the resolved issues. Now, if today you are using configuration as code or Cask with CloudBees CI, there were some changes to how those plugins work. So if you are using Cask, be sure to read the text in this big red block to understand what you have to do in order to continue using Cask with CloudBees CI. Now let's scroll down to our new feature. And there's really only one this release, and we're going to take a look at actually how it works. You now can add a customizable label to the header of an operations center or to a controller. So how do we do that? I'm so glad you asked. I have an operations center, I have a controller. Let's go down to our controller and click on Manage Jenkins and click on Configure System. If I scroll down, I'm going to see a section called Header Label. Now, there are some constraints to this header label. It can only be 40 characters. So in my case, what I'm going to say for my label is going to be production. And when I click on Save, I now see a production label up in the header. However, if I have numerous controllers all connected to a single operations center, and I want all of the controllers to have the same label, I can also create that label on the operations center, and it will be applied to all of the controllers. Let's see how that works. Before we do that, I'm going to go and clear out the label that I just set for my controller. So I'm going to delete production. Click on Save. Let's go back up to our Operations Center. Click on Manage Jenkins. Again, we'll go to Configure System, but this time the header label is going to look just a little bit different. So let's go to Header Label, which is right here. So I'm going to say again, Production. So that means my Operations Center will have the label of Production. But I'm also going to check Apply to Controllers with no label. So since I cleared out the label on the controller just a few moments ago, then what's going to happen is this is going to set the label on that controller. And in fact, just to make sure that there's nothing behind of the other, I'm going to change this label to not just production, but production today. Now, the other thing that I can also do is I can override on controllers with an existing label. Now, at this point, I don't have a label over there, so I'm not going to check that box. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And we will see on the Operations Center, the label is Production Today. And if I go back over to my controller, and there it is. This has been a highly requested feature, and it is now available in CloudBees CI. Let's go back over to our release notes and take a look at some of the feature enhancements. There are numerous enhancements and fixes to configuration as code. One of those is folder items can now be exported as an item. Also, if you are running CloudBees CI traditional as a container image, so standalone using Docker or some other container runtime, the base for that container image has been upgraded to include OpenJDK 8U312. By upgrading to this version of OpenJDK, this includes a number of security fixes and improvements. Again, hearkening back to what we saw in the big red box at the top of the page, the Cloudbees Configuration as Code plugins have been split up into numerous plugins. So after you read the big red section at the top of the release notes, be sure to review each of the sections here around Cloudbees Cask API plugins. Now, not only has the Cask API plugins been broken apart, the Cask Server plugin has also been broken up into multiple plugins. Again, if you are using configuration as code, this release 2.319.1.5 is a very big release. Now, another feature that has been requested for a while with configuration as code is the ability to configure the pipeline template catalog. That is now available to you today. Now let's go ahead and scroll down to our resolved issues. This top item, a regression was found in the tar extraction functionality. This is actually related to stash and unstash from within a pipeline. And really it's just unstash. So if you need more details on how this was fixed, you can go take a look at this Jenkins Jira issue. Also included are a number of configuration as code fixes. And here at the bottom, or near the bottom, is something that could be important to you. It should not affect you, but in case you have a problem with a permission with your global shared libraries, the Jenkins Run Scripts permission has been deprecated, but it was still being used in the Global Pipeline Library plugin. Now, the code has been updated to use Jenkins Administer instead of Jenkins Run Scripts. So you should be fine, but in case you have any problems with your global shared libraries, this might be the root cause. Finally, at the top, we were talking about a security release. There were two libraries that needed to be updated, the JSoup library and the Commons Compress library. Both of those were updated to secure versions in this release. Now, under known issues, one of the big items that happened here is the renaming of master within the controller to built-in node. Mark Waite and I, in the What's New in Jenkins LTS 2.319.1, went into great detail about how this works. So I'd recommend that you go over to watch that video to understand exactly how this might impact you. Finally, for traditional, we have a few upgrade notes that I want to call out. The first one is safely upgrading the Amazon Web Services SDK plugin. Much like our configuration as code plugins being broken apart into multiple plugins, the AWS SDK plugin has also been broken up into multiple plugins. So this process walks you through how to properly set up your AWS plugins if you're using them. If you're not using them, you may still want to go ahead and review this section to see if it potentially applies to you anywhere within your organization. Secondly, if you've been using CentOS or Red Hat or any other Fedora-based package and using the RPM, the daemon parameter has been removed from the RPM packaging. In order for CentOS to work, you have to install the Apple release package to make sure daemonize works. So -- daemon has been removed, but instead the RPM has been updated to use daemonize. So if this affects you, this is how you're going to resolve it. And finally, there is an announcement here about the plans for removing some of the plugins from the Cloudbees Assurance Program. So you might want to go ahead, take a look through this list, and see if any of these items might affect you. If so, reach out to Cloudbees support if you have any concerns or questions. Now let's go over to our modern release notes and call out just two items. There were only two items that were specific to modern that were not included in traditional. And the first one is under feature enhancements. And what is now available is any managed controller created by configuration as code can now be automatically provisioned. Up until this point, the managed controllers would be created, but that was it. Now they're created and provisioned. Secondly, under the upgrade notes, again, everything else is the same as traditional for modern. But if we look at upgrade notes, there is an item for Helm chart migration. If you are using the Cloudbees Helm charts to do your installations for CloudBees CI for modern cloud platforms, on January 25th, 2022, Cloudbees is going to be migrating all of the public Helm charts to GCP. And from that point forward, the URL that's listed here is the only place that Helm charts will be available. Any request being made to charts.cloudbees.com will be automatically redirected. However, if you're using any kind of proxy or firewall-based filtering, you might want to take a look at this. Again, you have about 6 to 8 weeks to get ready for this, but the Helm chart migration is going to be happening on January 25th, 2022. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us on Twitter @CloudBees. If this video was helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to CloudBees TV yet, why not? Take a moment, click on that subscribe button, and then ring that bell, and you'll be notified anytime there's new content available on CloudBees TV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.